Dear friends, I'm glad to meet you all on Feygin Live. It is Monday, 25th of July, 1 minute past 10 Kiev time. 125,000 watching us live, 25 left their likes. Day 152 with Olexiy, glad to see you. Sorry everybody, I'm glad to be here. We had a brief break yesterday. Technically, it was a calendar of 5 months from the beginning, so somewhat a milestone. So let's discuss that at least a day later. What do we have by the end of month number 5 of this war? If to say it briefly, when it all started on February 24th, did you have an idea that it might continue for 5 months? I had two variants in my head. I was thinking that maybe in a few days they'll understand that they're idiots and they'll withdraw back and cancel it. And the second was somewhat of a nebulous outcome, and I think it went into nebulous. So, what happened in the last couple days? Anything changed? Noteworthy? They have not achieved anything, Mark. Not a single goal they had. Just talking about everything. Overall, now when they started to adjust smaller goals to their means, then they started achieving something. But otherwise, yeah, they're keeping active. Do you see on the north the border with Russia to the west? They tried to go to Dementivka, got kicked back, withdrew, tried to attack Rubezhne, didn't work for them. That's east of Kharkov region. They also gathered some troops near Balaklia and went to Gusarovka, and this is counter. You see that little arrow on 11 o'clock? They tried to attack us a little bit to indicate that they got some means and troops in that area. They are about 3 days late, but somewhat smart action. One doesn't need to be a Napoleon to expect such motion. If we look down to Izum and Slaviansk, I expect a lot of things to get into the story and folklore of this war, but one story besides Chernobyevka would be a story of attack from Izum towards Slaviansk, because having the best equipped and probably biggest group there and being unsuccessful for 90 days to reach Slaviansk, I suspect it'll be day 250 and we'll still be talking about Bogorodichne, Svetogorsk and Prishib. Nothing is changing. To the west of Slaviansk, actually to the east. They're a bit quiet there, they have other goals and they're just holding their line. So whatever reinforcements they get, they try to attack Siversk as well. We stopped them there, they retreated. Belogorovka, same thing. Vladimirovka, they tried to advance a little. We kicked them back. So a bit lower, they had partial success. Our central command declared that to be partial success for the enemy, while on the Russian side they were already celebrating capturing Ugledar's energy station. Not true yet. We'll see how it unfolds. They're still trying to advance towards Kamenka, towards New York, to the north of Avdiivka. So let's scroll down to Mariivka. Same Nothing is changing. On Zaporozhye, there is a bit of tactical artillery duels happening. In Kherson area, they tried to move a bit to the south of that crossing, Davidov Brod. Doesn't quite work for them yet. You can see two red arrows in the left corner, about 8 p.m. We're still holding them there. And they're trying to resupply their troops on the right side through Novokakhovsky Bridge. Are you guys shooting at the bridge, stopping them at all? Different things happening. Let's not speak about that yet. But in a couple of days we should be able to comment on that. What about Vysokopolye? That protrusion up top on the 12 o'clock on this map? In my opinion, our command did something wrong. Olexiy, your sound was disappearing. Please don't touch it. Sound may disappear. So, as I said, I think our troops are doing that a little less effectively, and if they did not completely lose that opportunity to capture them, Russians at least had time to bring extra artillery and more forces there, so we're kind of at a stalemate there. They cannot attack, cannot bring more troops into that protrusion, and we cannot also cut them off yet, so we'll see who wins. So these are two parts in the south, Davidov Brod and Vysokopolye. Actually, to the south of Davidov Brod, yes. So, over there, yeah, that's definitely active. Both sides are shooting at each other, and one side will definitely going to claim that area. Alright, so southern direction still remains Kherson direction remains a prospective area for possible deoccupation. Basically, all territory of Ukraine is a prospective deoccupation candidate, but southern area definitely has a lot of attention, and there's a lot of motion there, true, so... Any specific reason why they're moving troops through Novokakhovsky Bridge? Well, there is no other bridge. The other one is damaged, and they're reassessing or trying to fortify that, I guess. So they're using the Novokakhovsky one. It also is closer to the area with the active motion, so we'll see. All right, we cleared that. 8 minutes live. We have over 300,000 watching. Let's talk about separate news related to that contract in Istanbul and the shooting of Odessa port that followed, and a series of political statements made yesterday. Lavrov made some in Cairo. Where he basically stated that they're not going to fulfill this treatment in the way they signed it. He did mention that Ukrainian side needs to take mines away from Odessa and other ports. He also said that the vessels that will be following that corridor will be also escorted not just by Turkish but also Russian Navy. And he said very inconclusively that, yeah, we'll also be reviewing the contents, implying that Russia will be partaking together with Turkey in reviewing the contents of these vessels to prevent them having any weapons or anything. So basically trying to attack the details of the contract and assuming that they're not going to fulfill that. I don't think it might work, it might not. It depends on Russian side to a big degree. Their diplomacy thinks they got something from this contract, but they didn't. Well, they think they may get some softening of sanctions. That's only maybe in a perspective, and it's a maybe. Secondary, that after they started being criticized, even on the home front, about this contract, they're starting to play it and try to show that they actually have more access and more authority. But in reality, they can demand it. Doesn't mean that anybody will give them. The basis of this contract is assurances given by Turkey and United Nations. We understand on our side it's very simple. We did not sign any peace treaties with Russia. If they'll misbehave and approach our vessels, they'll get a harpoon right in the forehead. And it does sound like Russian side is trying to peddle a secondary step, Istanbul 2, additional contracts, saying that this one likely will not work because there are more things that needed to be discussed, and probably part of it is going to be what they think is a ceasefire on the south, because they need that to steal the grain and extradite Ukrainian grain to Russia or to third parties. So since they did not like the first one, they're pushing to conclude the second agreement and basically trying to obsolete the first one. So we'll see how that works. If that agreement will not work, we'll work different ways. Nobody is looking to work on the next agreement with Russia. So let's imagine this agreement is cancelled, nothing moves on the sea of substance. Moscow will continue to steal Ukrainian grain some way, probably sending it to Crimea and then from there to Russia. And in this case, Ukrainian new crops from this year will have no chance to be transported by ocean, by sea. Well, you're only looking at it part way. Black Sea ports is not the main route. There is Ismail port that still works, and there are land routes. Land routes are cheaper. They're also pretty robust by means of train, so we'll find ways to sell it. Sea is not the only way. It is faster, and you can probably ship more per vessel, but it only means that we'll have a longer logistic chain, but we'll still be able to supply the grains. All right, so all these statements that continue about the main bottleneck with this contract is Ukraine's intention. I'm trying to be very precise here, particular with the way Lavrov used his words. Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia said that any attempts of Kiev and Brussels, probably referring to von der Leyen, to achieve any victory on the battlefield is a direct route into abyss for them, says Russian Minister of International Affairs. На уровне, так сказать, уличной истерички заявление по поводу того, что... So during this entire week we're seeing feverish, agitated statements, somewhat hysterical, from Russian ministries about Istanbul Contract and the Istanbul Agreement and unfolding events. How do you think that relates to the situation on the front? Let's speak with the language of numbers. 1,700 tanks. It's 54 battalion complex. 54 tank battalions are destroyed. 124 battalions worth of armored vehicles destroyed. So, if we take Russian norm of battalions, it means that we have destroyed 35 motorized infantry brigades in Ukraine and 10 tank detachments. That's 10 motorized divisions or 5 armies by numbers were destroyed here in Ukraine. So 5 out of 10 total that Russia has. 60 types of Grad, 70 of irregular artillery. Lavrov says things right. It's the way to the abyss. Instead of saying it's for you, it should mean, he should have said for us. So I'm quoting our intel services. Russian side is doing a concealed conscription of medical personnel, anybody who would sign a contract and work. Border hospitals are full with wounded soldiers. Even in Moscow, they're trying to get more doctors. And the situation is so dire that they're writing therapists as surgical assistants. Pediatricians get military doctor positions. They'll be spread out throughout the territory of Ukraine to provide initial help on location, because everybody understands the sooner the wounded gets help, the higher chance of his survival. So that's where they are. Who said about the abyss? These idiots lost 5 armies. They're mobilizing medical personnel, and now they're threatening us. Whom are you threatening? Joined forces of Ukraine and Europe and America? Well, yeah, we kind of knew about this thing, and we've been talking about it, that they'll make a bullet from horseshit and tell that it's a nuclear bomb. All right, let's go to the other news. Finland. Finland stopped giving visas to Russians. But Olexiy Kiev, I actually know this guy. He is vice representative of Ukraine with European Union. He says that countries bordering Russia should not be letting Russians in who support the military operation in Ukraine, and include that question in the visa. And since in Russia they're saying that they have over 80% supporting military operation, it is important to ask them this question. So do you mean the ones who travel, they should then be executed in Russia because they apparently support European Union versus Russia? Do you think it's possible? Do you think it's real? Because that's visa defamation, that some people discussed that before on the legal field in the same way. It is not difficult to include that question in a questionnaire. And Russian likely will be afraid to put the answer to fit the question, because he doesn't know if this document will be sent then to authorities in Russia. So then, no filling out the paper, I'll just go back in Crimea instead, or Black Sea somewhere. Or Siberia, right? And then what if 100% of those traveling outside will write that they're against military operation? Well, that would be nice to publish the data then and say that, and cause a little bit of a political crisis in Russia. maybe put an asterisk in that form and say data of that visa application may be disclosed publicly. That is actually possible pathway for action, because Schengen visa is the right of entry to Europe, and they need to make sure that people coming in do not have excessive military inclinations, because you don't know who comes there as tourists. And this other ways create a barrier for crazies and for sick and for certain specialists from Russia who would need to lie in order to travel to Europe. So that creates a certain hurdle. They'll be screaming, and they already are, that human rights, and they should not be asked these questions. So whenever they ask these questions, all of a sudden they start loving international law. But aside of that, they just keep enjoying the broomsticks getting shoved up their butts in their prisons. That seems to be a pattern, as many video investigations showed. So, since Ukraine is working on membership in European Union, very few Russians understand what's going to happen if Ukraine will become European Union country and becomes one of the countries of Schengen visa. And Ukraine actually can block access of certain people to Europe. And Ukraine blockage will be spread and legally effective throughout the whole European Union. So those people whom Ukraine bans will be banned from any visit in Europe. There are several kinds of Schengen visas in Europe, but that ban will actually work. So yeah, that's a very reinforcing answer. You know, you are being happy for your compatriots, for citizens of Russia. They just don't understand. You explain to them, and then they start looking around and asking, how can that be possible? And you're basically saying, you dumb idiots, we've been telling you about that for a long time already. You know, many things will happen if Ukraine gets to US. If they still will maintain the right of veto to the overall voting, we will have a great influence on the groups of goods imported, exported, different policies. Even if it's not a veto, even if it'll be a majority, we'll still have influence on that. So there is a lot of good consequences in this story for Ukraine and very few for Russian Federation. All right, and for Putin. All right, we've been 23 minutes live. Let's talk about weapons. What do we have on the front of weapons? We got 3 Gepards arriving out of 15. We saw them. They look real pretty on the pictures. By the way, speaking of them, our 25th Brigade shot down 2 Su-25s and 1 helicopter Ka-52 in the last couple of days. And now with Gepards, we likely will jump these numbers very effectively. It's a very nice anti-air tank with the proper targeting system that puts things in place real fast. It has a very convenient system of both navigation, targeting, so it's a proper 21st century weapon. So if brigade counts for 3 or 4 of them per brigade, so we got over 4 brigades here or so. Ukrainian Minister of Defense did state that if we'll get F-16s, we'll have to change our runways a little to allow for landing, but it should not be major change, major overhaul of military facilities. So, yeah, I just need to say everything is moving and it looks promising. So, in your mind, how possible is the transfer of F-16 to Ukraine? Is it real? This is a decided question. It is really the matter of when it will be done technically. So explain to our viewers, what's the advantage for these planes against Russian MiGs and Sus? One needs to understand that the modernized Western jets, F-16, it is not exactly a plane like in the old times F-16. It's a different platform that's connected with all kinds of systems, all kinds of targeting systems that can carry very different, very versatile set of weaponry under its wings and can use them in different modes. So one F-16 is at least 5 HIMARS systems worth. Now imagine several dozen of them get to the front. HIMARS will be able to take a break after. And then, depending upon what other armaments do we get, it would reinforce our side to, if not dominate the air over the country, but at least set a very serious advantage over Russian Air Force. And will be able to limit their aerial attacks significantly. So, if we look back at the beginning of this conflict, Russia started with advantage in the air, and they thought they'll elaborate on that and expand that, but we were successful. On the front line, we're shooting them down. And for the last couple months, they have not even ventured into our airspace. And now there is even a chance that we might even get to them across the border when they get in the air. We will not cross ourselves, but the missile may reach them. Nobody will tolerate their launches from MiG-31 or other planes from the Black Sea area into our targets. This should change the character of war into our favor. I would not go into the overall winning situation in the air, but for sure we'll be able to provide enough defense and cause them to be afraid. And as for the infantry, they can keep digging deeper because there'll be a ton of new weaponry that can reach them on the ground as well. Again, it is an integrated platform. This is not just a one jet with a couple of missiles. Even those JDAMs, the targeted bombs with a target of plus minus 3 meters. So I have suspicion that we might prevail over them even before we get F-16s. By that time, the war should be generally coming to an end. And if not, then these weapons will polish the matter at the final stage. All right, to the topic of airplanes, there is another one, a very infernal story with as if attempts to steal jets from Russia with some weird help from Hristo Groziev, sleuth from Bellingcat, online research detective organization. And Moscow media is writing that Hristo Groziev was participating in the plans of Ukrainian intel to steal a plane of Russian air and space force. And the plan was to poison the second pilot with clofulin and the first one would have driven the plane across the border, flown the plane. That sounds so idiotic. That's literally they're trying to pin a criminal case on Christopher. Generally, I can say, yeah, situations when pilots were stealing planes for money, they happened. Right. Belenka's took one of the Russian Soviet planes to Japan. Some planes were stolen to Israel. I can allow for our intel to steal Russian plane. I don't understand though why do we need Christa Groziev for that action. So I totally disbelieve FSB theory. I mean, every secret service agency has his own fruitcakes, but all these details and weird chains of events that Russians are describing, that's somewhat of a Mexican soap opera. I do not even see our troops behind that at any bit. So they might have just were looking for a way to steal a plane. I don't believe they would be using clofulin or any of such meds to disable somebody. And if it didn't work this time, well, perhaps next time we'll do it. So, as we discussed earlier, remember, there was an idiotic news as if in a Swedish publication that some panzer or some convent, whatever the name for it, that it was attempted to be sold, but this was a fake news, and we are trying to find real news, and it's just curious to see if there are people who just decided to sell a tank and done it, or get the armored vehicle and sold it. Or an artillery weapon. Is it possible in theory or not? Whom do you mean? Russian side to us or us to them? Well, I know one hijacked tank. The guy drove it to our positions, got $10,000, and I think he might be even in the Legion Freedom of Russia fighting. Probably on the same tank, right? Double investment. Yeah, also somebody threw in the internet a note that I quit from a position of Yermak's advisor. Did you? No, I didn't. Well, you're not even getting paid for what you do, right? People have such a misconception of you. They almost portray you with like big glasses and white fur coat and a big golden trident on your chest in a cabriolet. And that's how you drive around the front lines in that convertible. That's what you drive to the presidential office. I need to upset y'all. He doesn't live like that. He does not waste taxpayers' money. Mark, I'm kind of living like that, just I don't have that fur coat. Yeah. Well, yeah, he's not selling stuff, and people just don't see you washing windshield of your car. I'm not even going to mention the brand connected with your image. Most people judge things by their own horizons. So they define motivation, logic, and steps in conjunction with their own logic. Your microphone is going out. Okay, so different levels of personality have different levels of the outlook on the world. Some people in our environment just don't get it that some people help your own country without getting paid for it. That's exactly what's going on. Yeah, I help my country to win this war. If I need analytics, I very often end up paying my own money to get that. And what's the reason to fire you, right? There's no way, there's no expenses in the budget on you. And one friend in parentheses wrote that I quit myself, could not hold the pressure, and fled. I don't think it's even a topic. Frankly, I don't even think it's going to be an issue. We can still continue talking things. All these idiots don't even understand what will happen if I quit, because then I will not have any censorship over me. If I guarantee you, the moment I quit, we'll have 1.5 million people watching us nightly. I have to censor myself because I'm at least in some official capacity out there. And then if I am not, then the only thing I will care about is the really classified materials, but otherwise I can definitely elaborate in much more detail on different topics. We have over 400,000 watching us. We're doing a stream tomorrow, right? Tuesday? No, Mark. I'm sorry. Tuesday and Thursday will not work. Saturday, I don't know yet. We'll see. So Tuesday and Thursday, yeah, I'll be in that convertible. All right, 400 plus 1,000 people watching us. Again, please subscribe to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych, to the Privateer Station if you have not subscribed to that yet. I do have an opportunity to confirm today that those means that we received for selling the merch online in Ukraine, as we announced, we transferred 2,000 euros with a changed exchange rate. It's 75,200 hryvnias to Yaroslav Olexiy, whose wife died in Vinnytsia after Russian shelling, and his son has large burns of his body, and he's undergoing treatment in Germany. He already sent his big thanks, and now we do have about another 3,000 available for the next candidate, so we're looking for more people whom to send support to. I hope before the end of this week we shall have the means, despite very often absence of Olexiy, at least twice. So I hope before the end of the week we'll determine the next candidate for our support. That will go directly from our account, our store account, to that family account. So again, big ask for you, from you. Go online, buy merch. We'll use this money to help people. So that's a good cause. And in addition, you do have to wear something, and you can wear something cool. Right, there is logic in this, Olexiy. Of course. And yeah, you will be helping other people doing so. I can add one more thing, Mark. I can add another slogan for our merch. Arestovych is the choice of strong. Feygin is for very strong. Because one needs to be brave to wear both of us. Only brave people can go for that. Well, yeah. Without extra modesty, we'll see you on Wednesday. So don't miss that. Come over. We'll have more interesting streams. Thank you, Olexiy. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, dear viewers.